This page, the cover of Total 64 magazine, shouts, "The world's best-selling 64 magazine," boldly at the top. The main focus is on the game Dark Rift, with the headline, "At last, a 3D fighter worthy of the N64, promising a stunning review inside." Also featured is an exclusive look at Clay Fighter 63 1/3, previewing the sequel to the SNES classic. They're also diving into Multi-Racing Championship, declaring it the N64's first rally game and giving it a full review. There's even a competition to win memory packs, controllers, games and a multi-gym. The cover model looks like he is the character from Dark Rift. See, the Plus section teases reviews and first looks at games like Dark Rift, Blast Corps, Multi-Racing Championship, Gambara Goemon 5, Tetrasphere, a Blast Corps solution, and Clay Fighter Preplay. This page presents a full-page advertisement for Sightings, investigating alien phenomena. The poster features 3 menacing green aliens, with the text, "Sightings" above them and, "It's out there" below. The next page welcomes readers to the land of Total 64, promising monster bashing and city demolishing action. It mentions the UK release of Blast Corps and Lilat Wars, and the thrills of Multi-Racing Championship and Dark Rift. There's also a sneak peek at Clay Fighter 63 1/3, described as a bizarre beat-em-up. The page teases competitions with prizes like steering wheels, joypads, memory cards, and even a multi-gym. The page features images of Clay Fighter and another monster character. This page is the contents page of Total 64 magazine, issue 7, volume 1. It highlights some of the reviews featured in the magazine, starting with Dark Rift, which the reviewer questions if it truly does the N64 justice. Multi-Racing Championship, a game with a championship mode, is also featured. Blast Corps, one of Rare's finest, gets some love. Shindu Mario 64 and Shindu Wave Race are also teased. The page also advertises competitions where readers can win prizes and mentions the page numbers where these competitions can be found. Quirky. This page is the contents page, boasting Volume 1, Issue 7. First looks go to Gambara Goemon 5, an RPG with the latest shots from Japan. Mace, the Dark Age, is featured, wondering if it can knock Dark Rift off its beat-em-up throne. Tetrasphere gets a mention for its addictive puzzling, and F1 Pole Position is undergoing some fine-tuning for its Western release. Top Gear Rally gets a nod too, with the humorous line about racing games being like buses. Also inside, Clay Fighter 63 1/3, Blast Corps tips, editorials, news, reviews, peripherals, back issues, cheat zone, subscriptions, next month's tease, and the sign-off. The next page dives straight into the news with a splash of Namco, announcing them as a new Nintendo licensee, with an image of Heihachi Mishima from Tekken looming large. They've announced Famistar 64, an update to the SNES baseball game. There's speculation about a 64-bit version of Tekken hitting the console. A European release dates section lists upcoming titles for July, including Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey, Blast Corps, Killer Instinct Gold, and Mortal Kombat Trilogy. August brings Hexen, NBA Hangtime, and Lilat Wars, Star Fox 64. September includes Cruisin' USA, Doom 64, and GoldenEye. Rounding it out is October with Multi-Racing Championship, and then the third quarter 97, with F1 Pole Position 64, Robotron 64, and War Gods. The price of the 64D is discussed with the equivalent of about £85 or $120 in Japan. This page kicks off with 64 Donkey Kong, discussing Donkey Kong's rise to fame and the anticipation of a new N64 release. The game, Ultra Donkey Kong, is slated for launch in Japan next March, utilizing the 64DD add-on. Rare is possibly developing it, with a hopeful Christmas '98 release outside Japan. The page then transitions to Nintendo cracking down on counterfeit products, highlighting a seizure of over $2.6 million worth of illegal goods. Howard Lincoln is quoted about the prevalence of counterfeit markets. Finally, the page touches on European developers gaining more freedom due to new licensing agreements, contrasting with the situation in America. Touch's release dates features a list of games, including Dark Rift and Multi-Racing Championship for July. Rinus releases continued, lists August, September, October and November release dates, including Clay Fighter, Top Gear Rally, GoldenEye, F1 Pole Position 64, Bomberman 64, San Francisco Rush, Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey, and many more. December titles are also listed, including Conker's Quest, It also lists a range of unknown game titles that are all due for release sometime in the next 12 months. The next page starts with lowdown covering upcoming games. Madden 64 is touted as potentially surpassing Acclaim's NFL Quarterback Club 98, thanks to securing the NFL license. The reviewer notes up to 8 players can customize teams, allowing for simultaneous 4-player action. The page then mentions that a sequel to Mario 64 is in development, slated for release on the 64DD sometime next year. Mario will be joined by Luigi, potentially offering a 2-player mode and selectable characters. 64 Bits covers smaller news items. SimCopter 64 is coming from Maxis to accompany the 64DD version of SimCity. The reviewer mentions more Sim games are sure to follow. LEGO Racers is rumored to be in development for the N64. Additionally, Turok, Dinosaur Hunter is being re-released in the US, with Rumble Pack compatibility. This page is a full-page advert for Internet, an internet provider offering full, unlimited internet access for £10 per month, or £100 per year, Inc. Vatout. It lists features such as a 12:1 user-to-modem ratio, 33.6 kbs modem connection, free web space, and free support. The next page is a news update for the N64. It kicks off with a bit about a Paperboy remake. The writer seems very excited about that. Then there's the shocking news section highlighting the Datal Shockwave, a third-party Rumble Pack with a built-in memory card, which they claim is better than the official Nintendo Rumble Pack. There's also a small piece about Gex the Gecko jumping over from the PlayStation to the N64 with Gex Enter the Gecko, but with no release date yet. A list of upcoming Japanese release dates for games such as Shindu Super Mario 64, Doom 64, and Yoshi's Island 64 completes the page. This page is a news roundup for the N64. It starts with Extreme G, which is speeding ahead to an earlier release date, much to the delight of European gamers. Then it moves on to Lamborghini 64, now with 4-player support thanks to feedback from gamers at E3, who lamented the lack of multiplayer. Finally, there's Earthshake, the sequel to Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, which is a long way off but will support the Rumble Pack. The page also includes a list of upcoming games for the N64, including Puyo Puyo Sun 64, Chameleon Twist, Sonic Wings Assault, Hyper Olympic in Nagano, Legend of Zelda 64, Top Gear Rally, Mario Paint 64, Mother 3, Pocket Monster 64, SimCity 64, Jungle Emperor Leo, and an unknown section detailing titles with vague release dates. These games include Battle Dancers, Blade and Barrel, Body Harvest, Buggy Boogie, Cabbage, Cavalry Battle 3000, Creator, Quampa, Dracula 3D, Dual Heroes, F-Zero 64, Fire Emblem 64, Flight Simulator, Golf, Ikazuchi no Gotoku Chinese Chess, Jikyo Golf Tournament 97, and Jissen Pachislo Hishuhu. The next page continues the N64 news roundup. It starts with a light gun called Pulsar, from Interact, compatible with the Rumble Pack, though no games have been announced. Next, Konami's NBA in the Zone 98 is previewed. The game will feature Rumble Pack compatibility, over 300 motion-captured animations, and support for 4 players. A release in the UK isn't expected until next year, but us players may see it by Christmas. Philips is launching a virtual reality headset for the N64 at $299 in September, cheaper than previous VR headsets, called the Scuba in the UK. Finally, Quest 64, known as Holy Magic Century Eltail in Japan, is coming to Europe with a full English translation. The hero will control the elements, fire, water, earth and air, and use spells and magic. The page also lists Australian release dates for N64 games, including Hexen and Blastcore in July, Doom 64 and NBA Hangtime in August, and War Gods and Lilat Wars in September. Other games like Dark Rift, Clay Fighter 63 and a third, F1 Pole Position 64 and Robotron 64 are slated for release in the third quarter of '97. This page is an advert for Eternity magazine. It features a large black and white image of a crowded protest. The title reads, "Fighting for your rights as a human being." There is contact information at the bottom. Horinshire. The next page contains the 64 news section with the headlines, "How Puzzling," and an article on Turok 64, the puzzling. Article discusses the upcoming Nintendo 64 release of Puyo Puyo, known as Kirby's Avalanche in the UK. It will include 5 play modes and Rumble Pack support. The article suggests a UK release might see the game rebranded with the Kirby license. The Turok 64 article confirms the game for the Nintendo 64, stating that it's a prequel to the SNES versions and will be in full 3D. The storyline will explain how the Turok suit came to be and feature familiar scenes and locations with improved graphics. A side panel lists release dates for upcoming games including GoldenEye, Yoshi's Island 64, Body Harvest Mission Impossible, MK Mythologies, Sub-Zero Robotech, Crystal Dreams Rumble Pack Super Mario 64, Rumble Pack Wave Race 64, Cruisin' World Zelda 64, F-Zero 64 Attack, Biofreaks, Centipede X, Duke Nukem 64, Joust Epic, Kirby's Air Ride Mace, The Dark Age, Mortal Kombat 4, Mystical Ninja 64, Quake 64, Rebel Moon Revolution, San Francisco Rush and Unreal. The page also touches on International Superstar Soccer 64 receiving the Nintendo Sports logo for its US release, a move to compete with Sega and Sony. This page is an advisory from Total 64 magazine regarding modifications to imported NTSC Nintendo 64 consoles. It explains that while they previously offered advice on fixing black and white picture issues on non-compatible TVS, they now caution against attempting the internal modifications due to the risk of damaging the console. The advisory stresses that only the Nintendo Service Centre in the UK can undertake official repairs, and that tampering with consoles, even UK PAL versions, will invalidate the warranty. A phone number is provided for the Nintendo Service Center. The page features an image of Mario giving a cheeky wink. Kendall. The next page presents a first look at upcoming Nintendo 64 games, with the highlight being Gambare Goemon 5, also known as Legend of the Mystical Ninja. The article mentions that the first SNES Goemon game was released in the UK, but laments that subsequent titles were missed, describing the series as one of the greatest of all time. It briefly details the gameplay, which involves playing as Goemon or his sidekick Ebisumaru, running around towns, defeating enemies, and purchasing items. The article praises the series' weird characters, extraordinary bosses, unusual humor, and hidden secrets like a Gradius level, a quiz show, and a horse racing game within the game. There are some in-game screenshots included. This page showcases a first look at the upcoming Nintendo 64 game, Gambare Goemon 5 or Legend of the Mystical Ninja. Comparisons to Mario 64 are drawn due to the similar graphical style. The game features action RPG elements akin to Zelda titles. The reviewer hopes for an English translation to avoid the frustration of an import version. The page also includes character designs of Goemon and other characters, with wacky hairstyles, and luminous green colors and references the 64-bit enhanced graphics. This page is a first look at Mace, The Dark Age for the N64. The reviewer is optimistic, calling it a promising beat-em-up title. It's set in 1273 AD, with fighters battling for the Mace of Tanis. The article touches on the plot involving the demon Asmodeus and praises the game's visuals, mentioning that the background environments can impact the gameplay. Comparisons are made to Soul Blade on the PlayStation for its weapon effects. The reviewer hopes the gameplay lives up to the graphics, and promises a full review in the coming months. The next page is a first look at Tetrisphere for the N64, a game that's been delayed for a while. The reviewer notes that it looks like it's finally ready for release. The article describes the game as a twist on the classic Tetris formula, played within a sphere where you remove blocks to rescue a trapped little man. As you progress, the sphere gets thicker and faster. There are different game modes, including a two-player option where players can compete or cooperate. The reviewer thinks it could be something special for the N64, and hopes for a full review soon, estimating a mid-August release. The reviewer jokes that the game looks complicated compared to the simple block-dropping Tetris that most remember. This page shows a first look at F1 pole position for the N64, a game that promises to be a vast improvement over the Japanese version. The reviewer recalls a previous look at the Japanese copy in issue 3, and hopes the US version's extra development time has addressed issues like poor pop-up. F1 pole position aims to enhance its predecessor with sharper graphics, a faster frame rate, and better collision detection. The key advantage is the official F1 licensing, potentially adding commentary. The reviewer notes that Human Grand Prix was once the only serious N64 racing game, but Multi-Racing Championship has since emerged as a competitor. The page includes screenshots showcasing the game's visuals, course selection screen, and driver selection. You get to see familiar faces in the driver roster, like Ham Schumacher, and the graphics on show. The reviewer is keen to see how the improved version fares against the stiff competition, and anticipates a review of the updated title later in the year. The next page gives us a first look at Top Gear Rally, asking if it can speed ahead of the competition with its new races due in the coming months. The page teases us with a paint shop feature for customizing vehicles and showcases screenshots of gameplay, highlighting split-screen racing. It mentions that while Issue 4 covered the game, new information warrants revisiting it. The developers have scaled back the game to 4 tracks, plus 1 secret one, and 11 vehicles instead of the originally intended 15. Boss Game Studios promises a faster, improved version with fully customizable vehicles. The tracks are set in various locations, from mountains to deserts to jungles, and along the coastline. Players can take shortcuts, darting through forests or crossing streams. The game will also feature weather and lighting effects, with the Rumble Pack adding further realism. With a release due in August, the programmers are putting the finishing touches to this one. This page features a competition to win a weights bench and copies of the game WCW vs NW, plus other goodies like exclusive hats and t-shirts, asking readers to answer a question about what the initials NWO stand for, along with a tiebreaker in 30 words or less. The next page is a competition page from Total 64 magazine, offering readers the chance to win copies of WCW vs NW on the Nintendo 64. The page features a promo image of Sting, in his iconic black and white face paint, pointing directly at the reader. There are also images of fans wearing WCW Monday Nitro t-shirts, with a speech bubble from one of them which is sarcastic. The competition rules state that employees of Rapide Publishing and associated companies are not eligible to enter, and the editor's decision is final. This page is an advertisement for Clay Fighter 63 1/3. It proclaims the Clay Fighters are back, ready to tickle your ribs and punch your face in. A staff member jokes that they will vent their frustrations by beating up the Clay Fighter demo. There are screenshots of the claymation characters in action, with the reviewer making fun of bad Mr. Frosty. The advert playfully describes the game and its characters, like eating shadow puppets with Kung Pao. The next page advertises Clay Fighter 63 1/3, giving it a pre-play 64 rating and a score of 63 1/3. The reviewer seems pretty confident after a good run of wins. The game is described as a comedy number, with some jokes thrown in. It also teases the reader to find the hidden gag in the title. Screenshots show the claymation fighters in action, with silly descriptions adding to the humor. It calls Clay Fighter a beat 'em up with its tongue firmly in its cheek and pokes fun at the series' origins as a novelty SNES title. This page is all about Clay Fighter 63 1/3. The reviewer highlights the wacky characters and moves, noting references to other fighting games with the description of Ryu's Dragon Punch. The blob character who can morph into a hammer and a rectangular block are described as ridiculous. The door-to-door service section details the game's level design, where players can punch opponents through doorways into new arenas. The next page continues the coverage of Clay Fighter 63 1/3, focusing on returning characters like Boogerman, Earthworm Jim, and the Lost Vikings. The reviewer jokes about Boogerman's questionable antics. The page also mentions Mixu Paatalainen and the finishing moves, drawing comparisons to Mortal Kombat and Killer Instinct, referencing a Killer Instinct finish move that takes 5 minutes to complete. There's also a note about interactive backgrounds. This page delves further into Clay Fighter 63 1/3, showcasing the Claymates of the month. We've got Blob, who can transform into various objects, and Bonker, the clown with hidden comedy mallets. Then there's Bad Mr. Frosty, who apparently should have been selling ice cream, Hobocop, who's permanently lagged up, Thoppy, a rabbit who throws carrots, and Locke, a rejected Hanna-Barbera character. The reviewer talks about interactive backgrounds and the 3D movement system. There's also mention of hidden boss characters. Warrington. This page is a showcase for Clay Fighter 63 1/3, featuring several of the playable characters. Hungan, a voodoo guru, is likened to Dalsim from Street Fighter 2 but more stupid. Taffy, a character seemingly made of noodles, raises the question of a Welsh connection. Kung Pao, a martial artist, uses tricks like frying pans. The review mentions Clay Fighter, aiming to appeal to hardcore fighting game fans, highlighting Dark Rift as the only other N64 beat-em-up of note. It touches on the game's irreverent approach, and the potential for well-rewarded pride-swallowing from serious gamers. Cassius Clay is brought up, for people who don't normally like fighting games. The final version boasts 17 characters, including 12 standard and 5 hidden ones, with 40 vocal samples voiced by Dan Castellaneta. The American version is expected soon. Finally, Sumo, Ichabod Clay and Liberty, who clearly needs a smack him with your pipe of peace, round out the character lineup, adding to the game's wacky appeal. The next page is a competition to win some Interact N64 controllers, from steering wheels to arcade sharks and superpads. To enter, you need to answer the question: which of the following films featured a shark even bigger than the arcade shark? The options are Carry On Camping, Independence Day, Jaws, and Taxi Driver. Entrants have to send their answers to Noah's Sharkpad Compo via post or email before October 3rd. This page kicks off with The Truth, a brutally honest review section where Total 64 prides itself on not pulling punches. They acknowledge that everyone's taste differs and that they have heated discussions when deciding on scores. The scoring system is broken down, ranging from 91,100%, cream of the crop, down to 0% likely to gather dust. They provide descriptions for each score range, giving you an idea of the quality you can expect. There's also a Picks of the Bunch section showcasing what the Total 64 team is currently enjoying. The reviewers, Chris, Justin, Nick, Miles, Ant and James, list their top games, with titles like ISS Soccer 64, Mario Kart 64, Turok, Wave Race 64, Dark Rift, Blastcore and Multi Racing Championship all getting a shout-out. James has been allowed back on the page after an issue with Mario 64. This page is a review for the fighting game Dark Rift. The reviewer jokes about writing a beat-em-up where characters drink tea and discuss their problems civilly. Other fighting games like Clay Fighter, Art of Fighting, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are mentioned as enjoyable alternatives to Street Fighter II on the SNES. Tekken 2 on the PlayStation is considered a tough act to follow. The reviewer notes a lack of quality one-on-one fighters on the N64 despite it being a great multiplayer console, and suggests that the cost of linking two PlayStations for multiplayer is too high. And the reviewer enjoys the game Dark Rift. It is also mentioned as a pick of the bunch by reviewer James on the previous page. The next page features a review of Dark Rift for the Nintendo 64. The reviewer laments the lack of inspiring fighting games on the console, suggesting that Dark Rift can now be added to that list. The reviewer also comments on the ridiculous storyline of Dark Rift, which involves a key that holds the secret to ultimate power and supremacy in the universe. ISS 64, Mario Kart, Star Fox 64, Wave Race and GoldenEye are mentioned as great games, but not good for kicking your friends, suggesting War Gods, Killer Instinct and Mortal Kombat instead. The page includes screenshots of gameplay and character art. 2. This page is a review of Dark Rift for the Nintendo 64, and the reviewer isn't particularly impressed, feeling it falls short of beat-em-up greatness. They mention that while the game has excellent backdrops and interesting character moves, it's still not quite there, feeling its moves draw from Tekken and Soul Blade. The absurd storyline involves dimensions linked by dark rifts and a tournament for a key to ultimate power. The review highlights the cast of characters, dismissing them as a mix of stereotypes, robots, aliens, and a burly bloke with a laser gun. Characters like Demonica Glaycrew, Aaron Maverick, Eve, and Gore are showcased. The page also includes details on the game's motion capture process and various gameplay options. The next page features more on Dark Rift, the N64 fighting game. The review notes the game's fighting mechanics borrow from titles like Mortal Kombat, Soul Blade, and Tekken, noting the importance of timing in combos. The reviewer, Justin, admits it can't compete with Tekken 2, but thinks it's a good game in its own right, praising the different fighting styles and appearances of the characters. He also compliments the backdrops and 3D moves. The page also introduces some characters like Morphix, who's able to transform his arms into weapons, Nikki, a lightning-fast character, Scarlet Zerai, who has a large sword, and Tenmuron, who looks like a Power Rangers reject. This page continues the Dark Rift review. Nick chimes in, agreeing it's a decent beat-em-up especially for the N64, but notes its lack of originality, citing Tekken and Soul Blade as influences. He praises the varied characters and polished graphics, but laments the small roster of only 10 characters, including the secret bosses. The review highlights the game's three-dimensional beat-em-up style, noting the solid and funky sprites and rotating backgrounds. It also mentions the workmanlike sound and disappointing endings, consisting of just scrolling text. Finally, it showcases a selection of characters with screenshots, including Aaron, Gore, Scarlet, Demonica, Morphix, Eve, Nikki, and Tenmuron, noting their projectile attacks as a key part of the gameplay, and how satisfying it is to make your foes squirm. The next page features a review of Dark Rift, declaring, "Come on then, mush. It acknowledges the lack of decent 64 beat-em-ups, and while Dark Rift isn't a bad game, it's somewhat dingy. The reviewer praises the emphasis on contact attacks over projectiles, along with the sharp graphics, but laments the sinister look and lack of variety in levels. He also expresses a personal dislike for the fantastical characters. The verdict box gives Dark Rift scores. 86 for graphics, described as very nice but a bit on the dark and gloomy side. 72 for sound, all the usual grunts, groans and thwacks. 83 for playability, fairly standard without much in the way of innovation, and an overall score of 84. The game is published by Vic Tokai, developed in-house, supports 1 or 2 players, and is a beat-em-up for the USA. The magazine issue is Total 64 Volume 1, Issue 7. This page features a review of Multi-Racing Championship, questioning if it can rival the likes of Ridge Racer and Sega Rally. The reviewer mocks CRUI San USA as the only other driving game on the console, and suggests that you'd have to be mad to play it. Multi-Racing Championship takes cues from Ridge Racer and Sega Rally, offering multiple routes within tracks, including both on-road and off-road sections. The reviewer notes the importance of choosing the right vehicle for the terrain, with options for customizing cars. Sort of shuffles the two concepts together, rather like one of those professional dealers in a Las Vegas casino. The next page covers Multi-Racing Championship, and it asks if it can rival the likes of Ridge Racer and Sega Rally, with a slight dig at Cruisin' USA being the only other driving game on the console and implying anyone playing it would be mad. Multi-Racing Championship is said to take a few leaves from Ridge Racer and Sega Rally's book, with multiple routes in tracks including on- and off-road sections. It points out the importance of picking the right car for the job, with options to customize vehicles from gear ratios to tire types. The reviewer describes it as if it shuffles the two concepts together, rather like one of those professional dealers in a Las Vegas casino. This page reviews Multi-Racing Championship for the N64, stating that the game is just what the N64 needed, being the only other racer on the system alongside Mario Kart, and slightly roasting Cruisin' USA again. The reviewer notes that the game mechanics aren't perfect, but there's still plenty of scope for players to customize setups and enjoy the two-player mode, declaring it a winner. They also praise the draw distance and lack of fogging, saying it avoids the nasty unnecessary fogging. There's some criticism for the two-player screen being too small, due to the screen being chopped to make room for lap times, causing eye strain on smaller monitors. However, it's noted that it runs smoothly. The reviewer also finds the crashes disappointing, due to a lack of impact when colliding with walls. They highlight the varied racing surfaces, with gravel becoming looser near the edge of the track. The little yellow dune buggy takes the checkered flag in 10th place, so you get what you pay for playing with the big boys. There is also a handy mirror for seeing the other racers trying to overtake you. The next page provides a more detailed review of Multi-Racing Championship, acknowledging it's not entirely original but appreciates its interesting ideas like alternative routes and customization. The reviewer notes the graphics are shoddy, with a bad case of N64 blur, bland colors, and a slow frame rate, especially compared to PlayStation races. They also remark on the roads being made of straight lines. The reviewer thinks the two-player mode is disappointing due to the screen split, but ultimately, the reviewer thinks Multi-Racing Championship is a good racing game for the N64, stating it's in pole position for now. This page showcases a review of Multi-Racing Championship on the N64. The reviewer, Ali, admits to being a racing game fan but was slightly disappointed with MRC, specifically mentioning the limited number of tracks, but ultimately thinks the game is better than CRUI Sen USA. The review acknowledges the game's graphical shortcomings, highlighting the straight lines and fogging. Despite these issues, it praises the realistic driving feel, especially the differences between car types and surface handling. There's also mention of the replay feature, with dramatic camera angles. The page also features an advert for Honest John's Body Shop, highlighting car customization options. This page continues the review of Multi-Racing Championship. It dives into the steering wheel compatibility and rumble pack features, not being overly impressed by either. The steering wheel compatibility is considered decent, but the analog stick is considered more effective. The rumble pack is viewed as a gimmick due to inaccurate vibration. The review also mentions the ability to control slides, which is something the reviewer appreciates and was not able to manage in Ridge Racer even after hours of play. The ability to customize the cars and race in two-player mode are positives. The final verdict gives the game scores: graphics 70, sound 65, playability 87, and an overall score of 80. It's called a very dull and blurry affair, graphics-wise, and the sound is labeled as nothing special. The page also includes screenshots of the game in action and captions that comment on the changing scenery and the addition of speed cameras. This page is a review of Blastcore. The reviewer is excited about the game, saying it restores faith in games. They describe the plot as something straight out of a 70s disaster movie, where a remote-controlled nuclear missile transporter is out of control, and the player must demolish buildings in its path. The game is praised for its playability, a refreshing change from graphically impressive but less engaging titles. The review highlights an example scenario, where the player has to destroy a train station by driving a train with explosives, using a bulldozer lifted by a crane. The page features screenshots of the game, including the cyclone suit in action, a demolition vehicle called Backlash, and other scenes of gameplay. The reviewer jokes about one of the characters being big, yellow, and liking to smash buildings in his spare time. What a boy! The next page is a continuation of the Blastcore review, with the reviewer praising the variety of vehicles and the non-linear approach to gameplay, where you can choose the level order. The vehicles range from the ordinary bulldozer and dump truck to futuristic robots. The reviewer notes some handling issues, but ultimately finds them adding to the challenge. They also note the solid graphics and impressive explosions. The review concludes that Blastcore is an original and addictive game, and scores it highly in graphics, sound and playability, with an overall score of 89%. There's also a comment from Miles, who compares the game to running over sandcastles with Tonka trucks. This page features a review of Shindu Super Mario 64, a Japanese re-release of the classic game with Rumble Pack compatibility. The reviewer, Miles, seems skeptical, questioning whether it's worth buying the game again just for the added Rumble feature. The page includes screenshots from the game and discusses Mario's origins and evolution, from his pixelated beginnings to his most realistic and exciting appearance to date, in Mario 64. The reviewer also touches on Nintendo's marketing strategy and how they built hype for the game. The next page is a review of Shindu Super Mario 64, positioning it as a re-release with Rumble Pack support. The reviewer seems unconvinced that the Rumble feature adds much value, especially for those who already own the original. He acknowledges that the Rumble is well implemented, but questions whether it's worth the price of admission. There are screenshots scattered across the page, and it includes a verdict box that grades the game highly, giving it a 95 for graphics, 92 for sound, and a 95 for playability with an overall score of 96. This page features a review of Shindu Wave Race 64, where the reviewer is questioning whether the Rumble Pack support actually improves the game. They feel it's unnecessary and suggest the Rumble Pack might not have enough time to catch its breath between waves. The page has screenshots of the game and mentions that while the Rumble Pack works when crashing, its usefulness during normal racing is questionable. Drake Lake is mentioned as the only course that's almost completely flat. The next page offers a review of Shindu Wave Race 64. The reviewer, Nick, isn't too impressed with the Rumble Pack implementation, finding it more of a distraction. Screenshots showcase the gameplay. They do mention that the updated sound and ghost mode are improvements, with the ghost mode featuring pink dolphins. Ultimately, the reviewer questions if the game is worth the hefty price tag, considering that it feels virtually the same as the original with a few extras. The review gives graphics a 92, sound at 88, playability a 94, and an overall score of 93. The next page presents a reviews roundup section, featuring 3 N64 titles. First up is Blastcore, praised for its puzzle solving and explosive action, earning a score of 89. The reviewer initially had doubts, but was quickly hooked, comparing it favorably to Pilot Wings. Cruisin' USA gets a scathing review with a score of 59. The reviewer likens it to a poor version of Outrun, questioning its existence when Rage Racer is available. They criticize its sluggishness, graphics, and poor playability. Finally, Doom 64 receives high marks, scoring 92. A longtime Doom fan expresses great satisfaction, noting improvements in atmosphere and nastiness compared to other PC games. They praise the extra weapons and refined elements, suggesting it might make your Mario 64 cartridge gather dust and take over your social life. This page continues the reviews roundup from the previous page. First, Doraemon receives a score of 69. The reviewer finds it difficult not to compare it to Mario 64, but acknowledges it has some quirky charm. Next up is FIFA 64, which is scored at 76 for the issue, and a current score of 58. The reviewer admits that initially, they were enthusiastic, but ISS Soccer 64 overshadowed it, making Konami's game the superior football experience. Lastly, Go! Troublemakers gets a score of 43. The reviewer enjoys the bright colors and cute characters, but notes that if you don't understand Japanese, the story will be lost on you. Kasuku. The next page features more reviews, kicking off with Hexen 64, which the reviewer isn't too impressed with, questioning its presence on the N64. They feel it looks dated, like a straight PC port that doesn't utilize the N64's power, and they criticize the bland graphics and uninspired level design, giving it a score of 63. The only positive mentioned is its 4-player deathmatch mode. Following that is Human Grand Prix, which receives a score of 80 for the issue, but a current score of 72. The reviewer finds it underwhelming compared to other races, and suggests it's more like Pit Stop 2 on the Commodore 64. They express hope that the US/UK version, F1 pole position, will be better. Finally, International Superstar Soccer, ISS 64, is praised as the best footy game ever, with graphics far superior to FIFA 64. The reviewer awards it a score of 97, stating that it is a much meaner game of footy. This page provides a roundup of game reviews. J-League Perfect Striker receives a score of 93, praised for its hilarious player animations and enjoyable two-player mode, described as a worthy addition to the footy sim genre. Killer Instinct Gold scores 69, noted for its ludicrous speed and combo-heavy gameplay, though the reviewer finds the animation jerky. King of Pro Baseball gets a score of 91 in the issue, but a current score of 82, cited as becoming less enjoyable due to the lack of human opponents and frustrating single-player difficulty. Mario Kart 64 scores 93, with new tracks and improved graphics, but is seen as a simple update of the original. The reviewer suggests that if Nintendo 64 only offers updated versions of old titles, one might as well buy a SNES. This page is another roundup of game reviews. Mortal Kombat Trilogy receives an initial score of 78, dropping to 67, criticized for being too similar to its 16-bit predecessors. The reviewer humorously calls it an unplayable pile of crap. Pilot Wings gets an initial score of 95, dropping to 91, still considered a classic but not played often in the Total 64 office. Star Fox 64 receives a score of 96, praised for its added variety and multiplayer option, deemed a basic but enjoyable shoot-'em-up. Star Wars: Shadows of the Empire gets an initial score of 61, dropping to 49, failing to meet expectations and prompting warnings to readers. This page is a review roundup, starting with St. Andrews Old Course Golf, initially scored at 58 but dropping to 42. The reviewer's not impressed, suggesting something's very wrong with it, even comparing it unfavorably to Commodore 64 titles. Next up is Super Mario 64, bagging a stellar initial score of 96. The reviewer gushes about its 3D world and addictive gameplay. Finally, we have Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, initially scored at 93. The reviewer, not normally a fan of this genre, admits it has a lot going for it, praising the graphics and atmosphere. The next page features two game reviews. First up is War Gods, which gets a score of 76. The reviewer isn't too impressed, suggesting it's a poor attempt to bring Mortal Kombat into 3D, and only for hardcore fans of that type of fighter. Screenshots show the fighting game in action, with character models looking less than stellar. Then there's Wave Race 64, which scores a whopping 96. The reviewer is clearly smitten, calling it extremely playable and unusually original. There are screenshots showing the jet ski racing action, with some nice water effects and vibrant colors. The reviewer jokes that the only thing missing is a Pamela Anderson lookalike. Overall, a pretty positive review for Wave Race 64. This page features two game reviews. First we have Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey, which gets a respectable 82. Issue 2 score was 90. The reviewer acknowledges it's the best ice hockey game, but at the end of the day, it's still just ice hockey, and might not hold your attention for long. Screenshots show various in-game moments. Next up is Wonder Project J2, with a lower score of 69. Issue 5 score. The reviewer was looking forward to playing this Japanese game, but was quickly frustrated by the language barrier. They sarcastically advise learning Japanese before diving in. Screenshots show anime-style characters and scenes. Doors. This page is the Firing Line Letters section, sponsored by Fire International. A reader, Clint Ford, expresses contentment with his N64 purchase despite the price drop, and defends the price of games. The editors respond to various points raised by readers, including the availability of PAL game reviews, import converters, and regional pricing variations. David Waller also chimes in, recounting how Nintendo sent him a copy of Mario Kart 64 as compensation for buying an N64 at the original, higher price. An advert for Blaze memory card is shown. Huh! The next page showcases letters from readers in the firing line section of Total 64 magazine. Richard Appels humorously laments his wife's newfound obsession with Super Mario 64, leading to marital woes. He also questions the lack of demo cartridges. The editors humorously suggest Richard secure full custody of the N64 in case of divorce and poke fun at Mario's charm. Brian Hannon writes in with several questions, including one about the bimbo in a previous issue. He also asks about Duke Nukem 64's multiplayer capabilities, the possibility of a Twisted Metal 64, the price of the 64DD, and the editor James's negativity. The magazine confirms Duke Nukem 64's 4-player mode, dismisses the likelihood of Twisted Metal 64, and mentions the expected price of the 64D. D is around $120, and gives an answer about James's unavailability. This page presents more letters from readers in the firing line section. Alan Silverstein discusses the 64DD, mentioning the need for a price under $200 and good third-party software. The magazine confirms titles like Mother 3, Pilot Wings 2, Donkey Kong 64, and Mario 64 2 are planned for the 64D. Aaron Taylor asks about Tekken 3, Dead or Alive, a Street Fighter compilation, Time Crisis, and LucasArts games on the N64. The magazine mentions Famistar 64, a baseball game by Namco, and a Street Fighter compilation on the PlayStation. David Lehman inquires about Mario Kart 64 times, and seeks the first issue of Total 64. The magazine advises using faster characters, and hints at a cheat zone for Shadows of the Empire. Alexander Martin claims to be an alien from Mars 2, and questions the game release disparity between Japan and England. The magazine jokingly suggests his planet doesn't exist, and passes his picture onto Sightings magazine, noting his resemblance to a tennis racket. This page showcases the Picks Win Prizes section, featuring reader-submitted artwork. Paul Bannister from Northumberland is declared the month's subscription winner. Several drawings are displayed, including renditions of Mario 64 characters and scenes. Ross Brown from Glasgow depicts Mario and Doraemon playing football. Alexander Martin Kent submits artwork featuring various characters like Miles from Total 64, while Bradley Lay offers a Tomb Raider 64 vs Super Mario 64 piece. Mohammed Rauf from London, and Michael Wadsworth from Lancashire, also have their artwork featured. Finally, Stephen Borchop from Coventry contributes a humorous drawing of Mario on TV. The page encourages readers to send in their masterpieces for a chance to win a year's free subscription. The next page is the letters section called the firing line. Gaz from West Australia likes the mag and finds it amusing that the SNES games are compared with the N64 versions. There's also a cheat for wave racers. Jimmy Sibbald from Ilford asks about new releases, and whether Warcraft 2 or Command & Conquer will be released on the N64. He also inquires about tennis games, and the N64 DD. Someone called Alex Reynolds is annoyed at the fact that Star Fox is being renamed to Lilac Wars in Europe, and someone called Wayne Vidallo is writing to see if us letters will manage to get through. Danny, the Reverend Flanagan, is asking about a collectors club or fan club for Total 64. In the Truth section, they state that they haven't heard anything about an N64 version of Warcraft 2, but Command & Conquer is rumored to be in development. They've not heard of any tennis games coming to N64 either. The 64DD will probably not be arriving in the UK until Christmas '98 at the earliest. The name change from Star Fox to Starwing was done in Europe on the SNES version of Star Fox. This page features a call for N64 fanzines, inviting readers to send in their creations for a potential feature in Total 64. They mention receiving a copy of Total Nintendo Gaming and wanting to showcase other fanzines. The page also provides a form for readers to submit messages for a Your Stuff section, advertising swaps, pen pals, and wanted items with a cartoon graphic of Mario next to the form, alongside instructions and a mailing address. Categories include messages, swaps, you want, pen pals, and I want. It also features a few fanzine images, including a copy of Total Nintendo Gaming, the best-selling fanzine in Airedale, and fanzines with the titles Nintendo 64 Fan and Turok Dinosaur Hunter. This page is a letters page, where readers write in with their questions and comments, and the magazine staff respond. One reader is looking for more shoot-'em-ups on the N64 and finds most games too easy, while another asks about a Mario Kart 64 cheat they read about, and another is curious about foreign games on a UK console. The Truth section addresses these questions, debunking the Mario Kart 64 cheat and explaining that using a game killer peripheral is how they got the score of 182 power stars, but the real fun is found by playing the hidden sections of games. It also covers the need for a new TV to play US and Japanese games, and mentions that Justin worked on PlayStation solutions while Miles and James toiled away on Total PlayStation. The page includes reader art of Mario and Luigi, a photo of Lara Croft, and a letter from a top striker in ISS 64. The next page showcases high scores achieved by readers in Star Fox 64 and trick scores in Making Waves. The Star Fox 64 scores come courtesy of a player named Taylor, who has seemingly dominated the game. The magazine staff is calling for others to submit scores that can beat Taylor's. The second half of the page lists scores for Making Waves. Trevor Scannell from Essex has managed to get his name in the magazine another 9 times. The magazine states that they will allow trick scores and includes the best lap and race times in the US, Japan and the UK, for various courses. The page also asks players to include a photo of themselves to prove the scores and be featured in the magazine if the staff thinks they are worthy. Also featured is a photo of Ian Thorley, who the magazine states is just one of the hotshots who is beating Justin's times. This page features readers Mario Kart 64 times. It starts with a couple of letters, one from a reader who switched from Sega Saturn and is happy with their choice. The magazine then prints a high score table for Mario Kart 64 from around the world. We get to see best race and lap times on various courses, such as Mario Raceway, Wario Stadium, Sherbetland and Royal Raceway. ATA. There is a photo of a local boy named Tristan, who apparently impressed the staff with his skid/speed up tricks, and a promise that these times are beatable and set the standard for players. This page is all about N64 peripherals. First up, Datal linear memory packs, available in 1 meg and 4 meg capacities, are touted as clever and hassle-free, competitively priced alternatives to standard memory cards. The reviewer at Total 64 can't recommend them enough. Warrington next, it's the SharkPad Pro 64 2. While the analog stick is better than the original pad, the reviewer doesn't feel it really improves on the original. Though the shape is nice, the overall feel and the buttons are disappointing. Slow motion and auto-fire features are a plus, and the cable is longer than the official pad. Lastly, we have the Blaze SFX64 version 3.0 universal adapter, which allows you to play NTSC versions of games like Wave Race 64. It mentions Star Fox 64 might already be released in the UK, making the adapter redundant for that particular game. Picture and sound quality may suffer when using the adapter. Khiti. The next page kicks off with the question, who needs multiplayer games? Well, Total 64 does apparently. There's an invitation for readers to spend a day at the magazine's offices in sunny Devon, playing multiplayer games with the team. They'll even sort out travel arrangements and pizza. Games like GoldenEye 007, Top Gear Rally, and Tetrisphere are mentioned as possibilities. The page also teases an upcoming feature about the Reader Day. It also highlights the game International Superstar Soccer 64. The rules involve teams of 4 in an 8-team knockout tournament, with random teams, fitness and goalies set to level 5, and everyone at the office thinks they're the best at the game. League champion Chris Marquet is expected to make an appearance. There's also some game shots on the page from games unknown. This page continues the multiplayer theme with the headline, Sunshine. It seems to be centered around in-house multiplayer gaming competitions at Total 64. We see a rundown of rules and major players for several N64 games. First up is International Superstar Soccer 64, focusing on players like Nick Jones, Justin Calvert, Miles Guttery, and John Evans. Then we have Dark Rift, described as an 8-way knockout competition highlighting Justin and Miles as the main players. Next it's Mario Kart 64, featuring a battle mode championship similar to Star Fox 64 and a racing tournament using Wario Stadium. Finally, Star Fox 64 gets some love, with 2 semi-finals leading to a final showdown. The page has screenshots for all these games, and the page ends with a cartoon version of Slippy Toad at the bottom, Gandu. This page continues the multiplayer theme with Wave Race 64, noting Justin, Nick Jones, Alistair Felton and Miles Guttery are set to ride some customized jet skis. It's followed by Multi-Racing Championship, described as another 8-way knockout competition, where players get to choose from various vehicles, even bonus cars, and highlights the players Justin, Nick Jones and Alistair. The page includes screenshots from both games and has a brief note about Mark, who is being paid by the company. The next page is a full-page ad for Madeira Games, us Nintendo 64 specialists offering special summer prices. They boast full speed, full colorless machines that also play Japanese, Hong Kong and Asian games. They also offer import services, including RGB conversions and a price beat promise. The page features a competition to win a day out to play at their location, and fill out the form before October 3rd to be in with a chance of competing. This page is a competition to win one of 10 Datal Linear 1 Meg memory packs for the N64. To enter, readers must answer 2 multiple-choice questions by October 3rd. The first asks which of the listed items is not a Datal product, with the choices being Shockwave, a 4 Meg linear memory pack, Reebok Stadium, and Game Killer. The second asks which of the following is the most reliable: miles car, English weather, pizza delivery time, or the Datal range of video game accessories. Entries should be sent on the back of a postcard or via email. Checker. The next page advertises back issues of Total 64 magazine, each priced at £4.95 while stocks last. Issue 1 features reviews of Super Mario 64, Wave Race, and Shadows of the Empire. Issue 2 covers Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, and a player's guide to Wave Race. Issue 3 includes Doom 64, Blast Corps, and FIFA 64 reviews. Issue 4 has in-depth reviews of Star Fox 64 and IS/S Soccer 64. Issue 5 features Mario Kart, War Gods, and Wonder Project, and Issue 6 covers Hexen's 64 Go! Troublemakers. An order form is included for readers to purchase the back issues. Bower. This page is a magazine cover featuring Lara Croft on a motorcycle. It's promoting 164 pages of PC news, previews and reviews, and calling the magazine the ultimate magazine for die-hard PC gamers. We have images from the game System Addicts, featuring a cartoonish character with a beer in his hand, and Worms is also mentioned. Resident Evil is on the cover of this month's magazine, Hilosum Addicts, Churchukachorsha. The next page is a full-page advert for the magazine Ultimate PC. It boasts a first-issue offer of £2.50. The advert also features a cover of the magazine, with Resident Evil and Tomb Raider 2 on the cover. Also mentioned is Deathtrap Dungeon, Illumination, and Quake 2. It contains a form for reserving a copy, with sections for name, address, postcode, and telephone number. This page appears to be an advert or promotional page for the Nintendo 64 game Blast Corps. The game's title is prominently displayed, and there's text enticing the reader to check out Total 64's guide for the game. The image features a robot in action, suggesting a game focused on demolition. The next page provides tips and cheats for various stages in the game demolition stages. Levels covered include Angel City, Diamond Sands, Outland Farm, Cromlech Court, Ember Hamlet, Shuttle Gully, Blackridge Works, and Obsidian Mile. Each section details the vehicle you need, the number of buildings, the number of survivors, and in some cases, communication point locations. Tips are given for completing each stage efficiently, such as using hills and trenches in Angel City, or the skid method in Outland Farm. This page continues with tips and cheats for Demolition Racer, focusing on bonus stages. It covers areas like Baboon Catacomb, find 224 RDUS, Cooter Creek, finish 4 laps quickly, Bison Ridge, another 4-lap challenge, Corvine Bluff, another 4-lap challenge, Dagger Pass, destroy 8 rafts, and Dark Heartland, destroy 11 buildings. The guide recommends specific vehicles for optimal performance in each stage, and offers strategies for completing the bonus objectives, such as using shortcuts and exploiting the environment. This page of Tips Zone 64 continues with hints and cheats for more levels in Demolition Racer, including Falcon Field, destroy 6 gas plants, Geode Square, destroy 10 spheres, Glander's Ranch, finding a shortcut, Lizard Island, destroy 15 buildings. The page also includes tips for Gibbons Gate, finding 400 RDUS, and Kipling Plant, destroying 6 gas plants. This page offers tips and strategies for various levels in Demolition Racer, including Magma Peak, Saline Watch, Salvage Wharf, Twilight Foundry, Orion Plaza and Moraine Chase. The advice ranges from the best vehicles to use, level goals such as destroying targets or causing a certain amount of damage, and specific routes to take for maximum efficiency, with tips on using the Z button for accuracy in Saline Watch. The next page presents tips and cheats for the endgame stages of Demolition Racer. It details specific goals, recommended vehicles, and strategies for levels like Shuttle Clear, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Neptune. For instance, the Thunderfist is suggested for clearing buildings in Shuttle Clear, while the Ramdozer is recommended for Mercury. The aim is to achieve gold medals and eventually platinum medals by completing stages faster and using turbo starts. It notes that the times required for platinum are insane. This page is a full-page advert from Gameplay, enticing players with the promise of price choice. It's pushing N64 consoles at £134.99, bragging about being the world's most powerful consoles at Britain's lowest prices. They're throwing in free 48-hour delivery, and they also guarantee to collect faulty consoles from your doorstep for free repairs. Various N64 bundles and games are listed, along with a special offer on a Mario Kart 64 and Gamester steering wheel combo. They also offer imported US N64 games and even Tamagotchi-style Cyberpets. The next page is another full-page advert from Gameplay, this time showcasing a range of products and services. They proclaim quality, service, and being Britain's largest mail of computer games. They're pushing N64 controllers, games, and accessories, including Virtual Boy games for just £12.99 each. They also advertise second-hand games and offer to buy used games. There's a sales hotline and a customer service email address. This page focuses on cheat codes for the game Cruisin' USA on the Nintendo 64, within the 64 tip zone. It provides instructions on how to access additional courses, unlock hidden cars like the Jeep, police car, and school bus, activate flashing lights with the siren on the police car or school bus, and enable a nitro boost. Button combinations and specific steps are detailed to unlock these features. The next page continues the tips and cheat codes section, now focusing on Dark Rift and Doom 64. For Dark Rift, there are codes to play as Sonok, and to view the character endings. Specific button combinations are provided for unlocking various character endings, including Aaron, Demonica, Dimitron, Eve, Gore, Morphix, Nikki, Scarlet, Sonok, and Zenmuron. Moving on to Doom 64, the page offers skill level codes, which is a welcome sight to any Doom fan. There are 3 difficulty levels: Be Gentle, Bring It On, and I Own Doom, followed by a list of codes for unlocking different levels on each difficulty. These codes will let you jump straight to the level you want to play, which is helpful for the player who doesn't want to go through all the content. This page is dedicated to cheat codes and tips for Hexen 64. It provides level passwords and a super password that unlocks the last level with maxed out stats and enhanced weapons. There are also codes for invincibility, walking through walls, level select, instant kills, and full health. The page mentions that you need to access a cheat menu first by pausing the game and entering a specific button combination. It has cheats for all keys, artifacts, weapons, and puzzle items, selectable within an in-game menu. The next page showcases tips and cheats for J-League/ISS Soccer and Killer Instinct Gold on the N64. For J-League/ISS Soccer, the guide offers codes for unlocking 2 new teams and enabling Big Head Players mode, which sounds like some comical fun. Moving on to Killer Instinct Gold, the cheats section includes instructions on how to access all options without completing the game, view the ending credits without playing through the entire story, play as the character Gargos, and battle on the Sky stage. All in all, a decent cheat page for those wanting an edge or a laugh. This page is a tip zone for Super Mario 64, offering some bizarre secrets. Firstly, it details a hat trick in Snowman's Land involving a teleporting tree and stacking hats. Then it moves on to controlling the ending camera during the Bowser sequence with a second controller. A section explains how to move the camera with the princess. There's a glitch for carrying the rabbit to other areas of the castle, and finally it gives a tip for how to turn butterflies into 1 UPS in select courses by punching them. The next page is another tip zone, this time focused on Mario Kart 64. It offers a few cheats, including how to race against course ghosts, achieve a speed burst at the start, do a boost trick, and unlock mirrored tracks. To race against course ghosts, players must beat specific times on Luigi Raceway, Mario Raceway, and Royal Raceway in time trial mode. The boost trick involves sliding around corners by holding down the R button and using the joystick. Mirrored tracks are unlocked by gaining first place in every cup in the 150cc class. This page continues the tip zone, and this time, it's all about NBA hangtime on the N64. It's crammed with cheat codes, hidden characters, and ways to clone players. There are instructions for things like cloning players, where you can double up on Dennis Rodman, which is pretty cool. There's also a list of hidden players, and the codes to unlock them. Some of these have wacky names. It also lists different access secret play modes using a combat code-like system, offering up things like baby-size players, stealth turbo, and unlimited turbo. Finally, the page details further secret codes, random team select, and even changing Rodman's hair color. This page is still in the tip zone, but we've switched gears from basketball to flight with Pilotwings 64. There are tips and cheats for this game, like how to find the Birdman stars scattered across different levels, such as Holiday Island, Crescent Island, and the New York stage. It also tells you how to get a perfect score on Jumble Hopper. Next is a short section for Shadows of the Empire on the N64, offering tips on how to get the Lebo scanner. Apparently, collecting all those pesky challenge points is worth it, even if it's an awful Star Wars cash-in. You can also fly as an X-Wing or TIE Fighter if you hold down the camera button on the Skyhook stage. This page plunges headfirst into the world of Turok Dinosaur Hunter, offering a collection of cheat codes to enhance your prehistoric rampage. We're talking invincibility, unlimited ammo, and all the weapons you could possibly want. There's even a disco mode for when you want to add a bit of strobe-lit fun to your dino slaying. The reviewer jokes about still not having a cheat code to stop the Treks from scaring you senseless. The page is plastered with in-game screenshots showcasing the game's intense action and terrifying dinosaurs. The next page is all about Wave Race 64, offering tips, tricks, and stunts. Fancy riding a dolphin? There's a way to do it. We get instructions on unlocking reverse tracks, racking up massive scores by pausing at the right moment, and a fun trick to use the same racer in two-player mode. Then we dive into new stunts like the double flip, helicopter stunt, and even a triple flip for the daredevils. Finishing off, there are details of dolphin tricks. The page is also packed with in-game screenshots of the game. This page is the magazine's subscription page, with the headline, Subscar, and receive 12 copies for the price of 9. There's a review section promoting in-depth looks at Nintendo 64 games, promising rigorous game testing. The games Shindu Super Mario 64 and Blast Corps are featured, with screenshots and tips. The page also highlights a tips and solutions section, offering assistance with tough levels and expert advice. The magazine is boasting on its focus and devotion to the N64 and the gaming community. This page is an advert for Total 64 magazine subscriptions. It promises savings and invites readers to subscribe to receive the next 12 issues. The form includes options for payment methods, such as check, postal order, Visa, and Access. The next page is a busy advert, all about grabbing your attention. It showcases new generation consoles, focusing on us, Japanese, and UK Nintendo 64 games with a phone number to call and a warning that they lead where others follow. It also highlights universal converters and a wide range of second-hand Nintendo 64 games, starting from £29.99. Then there is a large advert for Extreme Games, featuring us Nintendo 64 and PlayStation imports like Time Crisis and Gun, Dracula 2, Ace Combat 2, and Street Fighter X. It mentions upcoming titles and provides contact information for local delivery. Finally, there is a section for Import Zone Limited, advertising us Nintendo 64 consoles plus any game for £210, with latest games such as Mario Kart, Dark Rift, Hexen, Star Fox and Rumble Pack, International Superstar Soccer 64, Multi-Racing Championship, GoldenEye 007, also features PlayStation imports, and mentions official colored Nintendo 64 joypads, and includes a voucher system. This page is the next month section from Total 64. It teases upcoming reviews for GoldenEye 007, promising a new level of realism for the Doom-style genre. Then there's Ganbara Goemon 5, hyped as the N64 update to the SNES classic RPG we've all been waiting for. Tetrisphere also gets a mention, described as something about a bloke trapped in a ball made of Tetris blocks. Intriguing. Tobe. There's also NBA Hangtime, with the question of whether the NBA Jam series will survive the Total 64 playoffs. Plus, Shorter mentions are given to Extreme G, Lilat Wars, and Robotron 64. And there's a Goemon character featured to the right. This page is the editor's debriefing, penned by Justin Calvert. Issue 007 is done, and next month brings GoldenEye 007, hyped as the most eagerly awaited title since Mario 64, Tetrisphere, Ganbare Goemon 5 and Lilat Wars. Plus, a complete player's guide to Star Fox 64/Lilat Wars is promised, and a Mark wants a fourth player for Mario Kart 64. The next page is a full-page advert for Excitement Direct Nintendo 64 specialists. They offer fast delivery and a price guarantee on consoles, games, and accessories. Also, if your machine is faulty, it will be collected from you and replaced for free. Orientecialis. This page is a full-page advert for Rapide Publishing, publishers of Total 64 magazine.